Men have to be connected to their hearts. I have to be connected to my heart. The longest journey for a man is from the head to his heart. If you can't feel your heart, how are you going to feel someone else's? There's a core strength of love and of life force that surges through the heart that is more powerful than anything else.
All right. Hi, everyone. Josephine here on Universal Intimacy. I'm so excited to drop in and chat with my friend, Steve Ware. He's a therapist. He's a men's coach. He's been doing work in intimacy, polarity, and embodiment for years. And we're just really going to jump in and have a juicy dialogue on our journeys, on our collective field of work, and just what's alive in the field. So Steve, thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor getting to know you and to share some really phenomenal experiences.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I like to create context to name how we got connected and also honor our guides. And we met in Boulder, Colorado, through Alan McGrath Isbell in his work with Courtney McNabb and doing the polarity and intimacy immersion. And you were there assisting and supporting the container. And I was there with my partner as a participant. And tell us more about, that body of work and how you started working with them. And, it's work that you and I have both not only been participants in, but also facilitators in. So I'm just curious, like at that moment in time, how you got there and how you got into that work.
Yeah. Well, Alan and Courtney both, and I all study with the same teacher, John Wineland. And Alan and Courtney are mentors of mine in that program, having been working with him a little bit longer. And I think I was probably a year or so into that work and known them. And they said, well, we're having this intensive. Why don't you come out? And they invited me out to assist. So I think the time that I met you was the second time I'd come out to assist for them.
Okay.
And it was just like a really wonderful experience to not only like train with these people and train with our mentor, but then to see like how they have taken his teachings and the things that we're all learning together and sort of brought their own spin to it.
Yeah. Yeah. John Wineland, I haven't had the pleasure of journeying with yet. But how long have you been working with him and how did that begin?
I think I first found out about John in 2021 and did some of his online courses. And I knew it was something that was really, really exciting to me, but it was something I wanted to do in person. And at that point in my career, I was, this, COVID pandemic, all these sorts of things. And I was working in community mental health and my schedule just wouldn't allow like taking off the kind of time it takes to be a part of his program. So it was something that kind of was on the back burner for a few years. And I continued to read and practice and sort of learn things in that tradition in David Deda's lineage, but wasn't able to really do anything in person. And then in 2025, I went into private practice and all of a sudden I had the ability to do this. So I it went from something that I've been thinking about for years and then like, this is it, this is time. And so entered the teacher training program with John, and that's where I met Alan and Courtney. I've been studying with him 2 years and going into my third year this summer.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is fascinating. You're naming that you opened your private practice and you were in clinical psychology therapy. Like, tell us more about that work and your background in therapy, because that's so fascinating to me that you've been in that field and then how this other field of what we know as sort of coaching and like how they overlap.
Sure. I've been working as a therapist for about 11 years now. It came into it from being, a patient and a client of therapy for a very long time and having learned a lot about myself, having experienced quite a bit of trauma after a very serious auto accident. And it was something that my life was changed through that process.
Yeah.
And I just sort of knew that that was the kind of work that I wanted to be doing. I knew that kind of my old life had ended and that a new life was beginning. And so I was 35, went back to grad school and sort of started a new career and studied social work.
Okay.
And for the first 7 years of my career, I was working in community mental health. So a lot of very intense cases, seeing hundreds of people, very intense circumstances, a lot of trauma. And it was absolutely the kind of work that I wanted to do. And learned a lot from all of that. And then just over the years, just needing to sort of do something a little more focused on men. Because when you're working in community clinics, like you see whoever comes in next. But I found through all that work that I had a real knack for working with men, and that there was something that was like very much missing in the therapy space as far as like how to speak to their needs and how to address the issues that they're going through.
Yeah.
How to reduce some of the barriers that are there for them coming to therapy in the first place. So moving into private practice allowed me to do that.
Okay.
And both through the learning therapy and then, beginning to work with masculine embodiment through John, like that was sort of the piece that I was missing, like how to communicate in a way that would make sense.
Yeah.
That would bring, not only the therapeutic and the healing work into real life in a way that men can understand in a very simple, like a very simple and a very of the moment sort of way. I find that myself, starting with me and with most of the men I know, we live a lot of our lives in our heads. And so coming out of your head is really where it has to start, even though it's mental health. Like you can't do it without being connected to your body. And a lot of men that I tend to work with are not.
Right.
So that process of like how to get out of your head, start getting into your body, is how it sort of bridged from not only the therapeutic and the trauma work, which is also all deeply somatic, but finding new ways to bring that in.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that you are naming this gap, this need for men, right, to focus on their mental health and embodiment, and that you witnessed that in these, spaces of communities that were maybe higher at risk. And, it's something that I overlook now because I feel like we've normalized therapy so much. And you even see it now in dating profiles. Women are like, they want to find men that have a therapist or have done therapy or who have done the work. And so to even just name that there are still barriers, right? There's still that barrier that men are holding on to of like the fear of being vulnerable or the fear of like, how would you categorize it? Like, what is the barrier for a man to, or what you witnessed years ago? Like, what were the barriers for a man to say like, yeah, I need help?
I think the barrier to entering therapy is much lower. And I think that that's really beautiful. And a lot of people I see, they've been to a therapist before, but I think people still are showing up as, they don't show up as their full self. They show up, they kind of walk in the door head first and stay there, and finding ways to make it okay to say the wrong thing, to make it okay to be messy, is a very unique challenge. And that's the part that I think helps men, keeps men from getting more into their heart.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're saying getting messy, I mean, naturally, as a somatic practitioner, I'm thinking about crying, right? Like showing any and all emotion, or even being able to display and express anger, frustration, wrath, rage. Like those things aren't happening in talk therapy sessions so much, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it does sort of come with like this idea of like, you go to the therapist, you talk about the things that made you sad, you talk about mom and dad, and then you cry, and then like the healing happens. And that absolutely does happen. But there's also that layer that you named of anger and rage. And I think that's very, very hard for a lot of men to feel into. It feels very out of control. It feels very scary. Many of us have been conditioned to sort of fear that or to hide that and contain that, because anger can be dangerous if it's not released appropriately, if it's out of control, if there's not consciousness wrapped around it. It can be dangerous. But most men have suppressed anger so much, and particularly if they're, going to the therapy space, that is one of these things where, like we can talk about everything that we feel as long as it's like not any louder than I'm talking right now.
Right.
And that doesn't really work. Like at a certain point, like you have to get into this stuff and be able to feel this stuff. And that's very difficult. And there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of judgment that men have internalized or put on themselves or got from somebody that keeps that stuff packed down. And there's so much rich, like beautiful life force beneath it, but breaking through that layer feels really, really edgy. So finding ways to bring that into the room, to create enough regulation in their systems, in their nervous systems to do that and not be overwhelmed by
Yeah.
it, is a very intentional sort of process.
Right. And so
yeah.
you found it somehow. You mentioned David Data, but like how, yes, we need these spaces, right, where men can go to feel all the feels and process all the emotions, including the depths of the anger, the rage, the wrath. So was that sort of the catalyst for you of like, I want to be able to find a space to express the emotions, or sort of what led you to David's work and then ultimately John's, and this inherent knowingness that like, ooh, there's something more, something beyond talk therapy, which we know of as like the world of embodiment and somatics, right?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's what I was looking for, but that's not what I knew at the time. At the time, I was just sort of trying to figure out, like, what does it mean to be a man? Because, like, no one really told me that. I at some point around the time that I first read, like, The Way of the Superior Man, and was starting to notice that, like, I was getting more male clients and how well I clicked with them, I started to think about, like, well, what does it mean to be a good man? And I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had a list of things that bad men were, a list of things I'm not supposed to do, but a list of things of what I am supposed to do. I didn't really have that. So it was really just a personal, like, definition that I was trying to figure out, like, who do I want to be? And then I started to see that, like, that was the challenges that was appearing for a lot of my clients. And, that just sort of tends to be the way of things. Like, the way the universe works out is that you see the people that are drawn to work with you, and the people that have like the greatest kind of clinical chemistry tend to be people who are, facing a lot of the same things that I've faced. I'm further along in the path, but it's not like I have it all figured out. I've just been working on it a little bit longer, so I'm able to help people through it. But it's very difficult to help somebody with a problem that I have no lived experience with.
Sure.
It can happen, but it is a challenge. So the people that I find have the most profound experiences in therapy, and the people that I enjoy working with most, are people who are going through things that are similar to what I've gone through.
Yeah.
So everything that I feel compelled to learn in my own development ends up becoming part of, like, my clinical process.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so with the men's work piece, I heard you name sort of like, we don't have the definition of what it means to be a good man, or maybe some barriers to that are one's relationship to their own father, or mentorships and, lack thereof of positive male mentors growing up. So I'm curious, in your origin story, if that was the case, and, or, is it that we don't have a new modern day blueprint? Right. And for me, I've found in the work that it's a combination, right, of like, okay, we can look at upbringing and what was your relationship to the men in your life. And then it's also that we're really straddling, this new earth of what does it mean to be a man now is very different than even one generation previous.
Yeah. My parents were married, but my father worked on the road, so he was gone a lot. And the lessons I did learn about what it meant to be a good man was to provide, was to work hard, was to dedicate yourself to something.
Yeah.
But there's some subtler things that I didn't necessarily get to learn from him or from my older brother. But also, I think what they could have taught me, I don't know how relevant it even is now, because the world is changing so much and so fast. What our careers, what the culture, what women are now wanting from us, and what the world is wanting from us is changing very rapidly. Yeah. And I don't know that there is, like, that list that I was looking for. I think there's some rough ideas, but part of me really wants it to be that simple. And I want to make it that simple for my clients. Like, do this, 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 and you win, and you're a good man, and that would be awesome. And part of me really wants that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of that really exists. Like, I think we're in a time where we just have to be more connected to ourselves, more connected to the moment, and moving with the change of the people around us and of the environment around us, as opposed to just like, I have to do A, B, C, D.
Yeah, so much is coming through me right now. I'm thinking like the manosphere, right? Have you heard of this term? Yeah. And like, I'm curious your take on that, and just the propaganda that's happening now, even within, again, I'm going to call it polarity, but I don't think they call, but just the traditional cisgendered masculine feminine relations and what that's doing to the younger generations. And then I'm also just starting to feel into like what you were just saying about just being present and in each and every moment, which almost feels genderless, you know? So we're talking about men and masculinity and the masculine in a gendered construct. And now I think we're also living at a time where we're pulling it away from gender. I just said two different, a lot.
Yeah.
So feel free to pick up on either point.
I think it's a lot more about flexibility, being able to understand the masculine and feminine inside of all of us, because we're all both all the time.
Yeah.
Nothing is purely masculine or purely feminine, at least in a human body. And I certainly understand the desire to sort of want to turn back the clock to when things were simpler, or to just make things really rigid and clear. Like there's something about that I understand why that is attractive to people, but I just don't have any faith that is what actually, I don't know how well it worked before I wasn't there. Didn't sound like it worked so well, but I don't think it works now. And I don't see it working now. I see that the more rigid I become, the more rigid people become, the more they suffer.
True.
And we need to be able to move with these things without pulling our roots up out of the ground. And I think that may be where, so there's sort of one set of men that are very, very rigid, and they're very, very grounded in something, and maybe they know who they are, and they're very directional, but they don't respond to change very well. So when the world changes, they can get left behind or kind of snapped in half. And then there are people who are moving with the wind a little too much. They don't have their roots in the ground, and so they kind of are getting knocked here and there by all of it. And it's finding a way to move with whatever changes in our lives, the changing demands of our work, the changing demands of our love lives, children, etc.
Yeah.
Without losing the connection to who we are. And to not lose the connection to who we are, we have to really have it in the first place. We have to be connected to our hearts. And sort of that being one of the defining characteristics of men that seek me out, but I think sort of men largely in the U.S., is that we're living our lives from our head. Because that's what we were told to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm almost starting to hear that although the list of what it takes to be a good man or what a good man is, maybe that's out the window, but I'm almost starting to feel into there almost is a list of an order of operations of like where to start on this journey. And it sounds like you're naming this first step is like really understanding self so that you can put the roots down to access the heart. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so,
say it in your own words.
Yeah. I would say for me, like the list is one line long, which is just like, you have to be in your heart. Men have to be connected to their hearts. I have to be connected to my heart. I think there's probably more things that could go on that list. I think.
Wait, I want to slow down, Steve, because it's a beautiful statement.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And it's countercultured a little bit, right? There's this tendency to think of women and the feminine frequency to be heart-centered, loving, nurturing, the unconditional love of the mother. And so what you're presenting here, although we know in the worlds that we work and play and dance and swim in, that it's, of course, a man needs to be heart-centered. But I want to slow it down because it's a really important, prevalent, and potent piece that you're presencing here surrounding this new definition of a good man being centered on the heart.
Yeah. If you can't feel your heart, how are you going to feel someone else's or anything else? And in the area where we work together and are, in the world of healing and of love and relationship, that's what people are after. So I know that may not be the only goal people have for their entire lives, but if you want to be able to feel someone else, if you want to be able to experience the world, you have to be able to feel yourself first. Otherwise, you're just looking at it, you're just thinking about it, which is also I mean, like that's an experience,
Yeah.
but you're not fully in it.
Yeah.
And I think it is something of a misnomer that like once we're in our heart, once we're in love, that like it's all flowing and soft and somehow like the heart is strong. Like the heart feels very tender on the outside. And I think men armor themselves because of that.
Yeah.
But I find that as I feel deeper into the heart and as I help others to feel deeper into their heart, the core of the heart is actually quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a core strength of love and of life force that surges through the heart that is more powerful than anything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have to get in touch with that. We have to be able to feel into that in order to feel other people, in order to feel our lives, in order to sense our way through all the changes that are coming. You know, perhaps in another few generations, things will settle down and we'll be able to make that list of rules a little bit longer. But for right now, I think we have to be present and attuned to the moment above everything else.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so how does one, well, we'll say a man, because we're sticking right now with men. How does a man get in touch with his heart, right? This journey from, I'm going to point for those that are just listening, from here to here, from head to heart. That's a lifetime, right?
It is.
So what would be your recommendations of like where to even start?
The starting place is just literally feeling the organ. Like I have a heart. This is a physical thing in my body. Like all of the energetic and the spiritual things around the heart, like letting go of that. And it's just like, no, like the thing, the muscle in your heart that's contracting, feel that.
Okay. Or would you say like listen to the heartbeat, or like, would that be another way to feel the organ?
I think breathing into the heart, feeling the heart, noticing that, you know, the front of the heart feels different than the bottom of the heart or the back of the heart. And even just feeling the heart as the sides to it or something like that, sometimes that takes a little while to acquire that skill.
Yeah.
But I think that's where it starts. It's slowing down, it's breathing, and just feeling into these things, and then allowing yourself to speak from that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're open, because I work a lot with men too, if you're open for me sharing from my perspective, you mentioned this, there's a lot of armor there, right? We put a shield over our hearts. And so that actually, I feel like, is the precursor to even being able to access the heart, the emotion, the feelings, the sensations, the felt sense awareness, is recognizing, oh yeah, I'm not able to feel my heart. And then what we do from there are sort of these de-armoring practices, right? And what I've found is for some individuals, this isn't just men, women as well, often need pretty intense modalities, right? Whether that's Wim Hof breath work or ice baths or psychedelic work, you know, plant medicine ceremonies to like open the heart to actually access it, or even working, you know, with a tantrika or a somatic intimacy coach like myself to basically create that space to surrender, to feel safe enough to like drop the shield that's over the heart, so that they can fully feel. And like you said earlier, I think it's the fear of all the emotions. I hear women say this as well a lot, of like, I can't access my emotions because it feels like I'm going off a cliff. Like if I start to go there to feel all the feelings, there's this feeling of like the path of no return. Like I'm never gonna find my way back to wholeness or regulation. And do you find that as well with men? Like there's that fear of like, I can't fully let go because I have to hold it all together.
Absolutely. Another man I study is therapist Terry Real. And the way he describes it is that sort of the first lesson that boys learn about being a man is sort of summed up as not a girl. Don't be a girl.
Right. Don't be a pussy.
Yeah,
don't cry.
Yeah. When someone hits you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you learn is about the first real initiation.
By the way, I never said that or say that to my 3 sons, you know?
Yeah.
I create space for them to feel all of their emotions.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. And not all women do, you know, these lessons about what it means to be a man in this sort of old patriarchal thinking is so ingrained in the culture. It's not just men that perpetuate it. And I think it's beautiful that you're so attuned to that. But we start off our first lesson about manhood for most boys is like, just don't be a girl. And so everything kind of gets built around that. And because the heart and because love and feeling and emotion is so kind of placed into the feminine category, which from an energetic polarity perspective, like I think that is accurate, but not masculine, feminine in terms of boy, girl.
Right.
But it is an energetic, it is a living, moving, breathing thing. And so men cut them, you know, boys and become men so cut off from that. So don't have a lot of skill with what it means to be with those emotions and how to let that out. Like it's, the armor has been on so long, we don't really know how it got there or how to take it off. And there's also, if the armor is not going to be there, there needs to be something else. So in addition to all of the things like that are required for perhaps trying to open and de-armor oneself, there also has to be enough capacity to hold all of that. I think that's why the deep feeling, a lot of that deep anger work feels very, very difficult for people to go into, because even if they wouldn't put it in these words, they know like, well, if I sort of take the plug out and let this stuff in, what the hell is going to happen to me? How am I going to be able to hold all of this? So building that architecture first, building nervous system capacity, building skills to regulate yourself, building consciousness and awareness to like stay present even as things start to get more intense. A lot of that needs to happen first.
Yeah. How do we build nervous system capacity?
I don't have a great like one line answer for that.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate process, but I think it starts with education, learning how the nervous system functions. And then it grows into just feeling into its little bits at a time, feeling into intensity a little bit at a time, and then backing off, getting back to what's familiar. So sometimes when people go too quickly to these really intense things, the cold plunges and ceremony and stuff like that, all of it beautiful and great. Sometimes going too hard, too fast into those things can sort of create other challenges.
Yeah, exactly. We say trauma is too much, too fast, too soon.
Yeah.
Right. So you can re-traumatize yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you studied polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges? Yeah. And so, you know, that's something for folks interested in learning about the nervous system. I think that's like a great place to start to also understand titration, right? And that's kind of what you're referencing. And this is why it can't also be like a one size fits all process, because everyone's nervous system is different. And so we have to titrate, we have to feel into an edge as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to kind of stretch the capacity. But then if someone is going too much, too fast, too soon, they could re-traumatize, right? Without being held in the proper type of container with trained facilitators and integration. So it's funny because my response, I was like, edge, right? Because I'm very intense and in my own expansion, like I've done a lot. So thank you for that reflection and reminder that like, that attunement and the process must be intentionally slow to really also be able to listen to the body as guide to say like, oh, wait, yeah, I'm feeling an expansion, but maybe I also kind of overdid it, or, right, where's the medicine there sometimes when we do overdo it or go too fast or do things too hard or too much.
Yeah. I actually studied polyvagal theory with Deb Dana, who she's very wonderful. She worked directly with Stephen Porges and is very good at taking his incredibly scientific language into something that is very easy to access and make something that is quite complex sound very, very simple for people to understand, who don't necessarily want to get into all of the biology underneath it. Understanding stretch versus strain. If we're only in our comfort zone, doing what we've always done, we're not stretching and we don't grow. But there's a point where we start to strain, where we risk injury, just like you would with trying to build muscle or any other kind of like physical challenge where you can wound yourself. And then we have to sort of go 2 steps back. And so it's sort of watching that, like, how is it to push into discomfort and yes, titrate back to comfort, push into discomfort and come back. But equally true, there are people who like go hard, go straight at it and find a lot of opening. And then they do sort of more of that regulation capacity building work second. Yeah. That is not the path that I took. So like there's not like a right or a wrong way necessarily for it that I would advocate. Like, I think the most important thing is for people to really become a leader of their own healing, you know, and to start to trust their own instincts. And yeah, you're going to make some mistakes. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And I would add to that to find and establish trusted guides, right? For each individual. That's great. You worked with her and, you know, you and I are both lifelong learners and curious seekers. And, you know, for anyone listening to my podcast, I feel they do identify as such, as like following those breadcrumbs, and you find your guides, you find people that are going to support you in creating those containers, experiences, workshops, retreats, courses, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Or even working with somebody one-on-one that's going to help you stretch and not strain, and or when you do strain, like you said, they're going to be there to be able to tend to your wounds, right? And help you process the metaphorical scar tissue, right? That can get created through some of these really edgy experiences. I'm like smirking over here because I'm an edge walker, you know, Steve. I'm like, it's funny. I was on a call yesterday and I'm in a container that's an ongoing, the ritual-based immersive theater container I'm in. And, you know, there's a very like warrior like energy when you're doing, and you know this because you were in film. We talked about this production, right? And the pace of production. It's like you are a warrior and everything is right here, right now, as fast as possible, as best as possible. And it's very taxing on the body and the nervous system. And certain individuals thrive in those types of environments. And I'm kind of one of them. And I always try to like be like, oh, archetypally, it's because I'm a warrior. Like I was a Division I athlete. Like I like to go hard and fast and, you know, but anyways, I made this comment on this call of like, and we need people that are able to do it all and function on 2 hours of sleep. And then I went on and like somebody like unmuted on the call and they're like, no, Josephine, like that's actually not okay. Like we cannot be in support as a community and as an organization of people only getting 2 hours of sleep. Yeah. And it was like cool that somebody like pushed back on that because what works for me isn't going to work for everybody. Right. And it's not, I'm not honoring the individual nervous systems and ecosystems of like the basic principles of life are like, we need sleep, you know, we need safety, we need nourishment, right? And even from a military concept, it's like those things are really paramount to be able to function. Yeah. But I tend to be like, we're in the barracks, we're getting 2 hours of sleep on the ground and let's fucking go, you know?
Well, that is so thrilling. And that's what I appreciate about working with you so much is because you are so strong in all that fire. And I do hold the ground and the slowness and the pace a little bit more strongly than I used to. Because my 20s working in production, that's absolutely the life that I lived. I went to film school in Chicago, here in Chicago, and I worked in production. And when I didn't have work in production, I worked in restaurants, which is just also equally sort of like fervent and crazy. And I loved it and I thrived on it for years and years and years. And I think a lot of my recalibration and how I moved through the world grew out of that because I went very, very far in terms of like being able to do what I wanted to do, having very exciting experiences. And what I picked up along the way was also a tremendous problem with alcohol.
Ah.
And ultimately that had humbled me, you know? So after I had had the opportunity to work in Chicago and work in New York, and I traveled through Central America, making documentary films, doing things that felt really, really important, very exciting and edgy, for sure. The other dark side of that was a lot of drinking to sort of cope, and rather than learning how to really attune to my nervous system, just sort of doing what I need to do to tamp it down and keep going. And that ultimately led to me being in a very, nearly fatal car accident. I was in the passenger side and I was drunk, and the driver was also drunk. She lost control of the car, and we hit a tree. I got the worst of it. She got some injuries, and the tree was fine, thankfully. But that completely changed the course of my life. 2009 is sort of like this moment when everything after it had to change. And it took me a few more years to actually learn what all those lessons were. But I was not living the way that I was supposed to. Not because production and fire and all of that is bad. Just that's not necessarily what I was, put here to do. I still enjoy it, and I still think that is very much like we need to be able to do both. You know what I mean? And both are a part of the experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And being vulnerable and naming your addiction to alcohol, I call it the maladaptive coping mechanism, and your accident. It's a huge part of your journey, clearly, of awakening, right? Of realizing that the way that you were moving on this planet was not in your highest alignment. And sometimes, unfortunately, it does take that, right? It does take like an accident or a traumatic moment for people to kind of realize that, a tower card moment, people call it in the tarot. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, when is mine gonna come? No, just kidding.
Right?
I think it speaks also to, like you said, starting to develop, and it sounds like your path as a result of that was the seeking of different holistic modalities to help you regulate and become attuned. And for me, I think it's the only way that I've been able to function in the fire. I like how you call that, in the fire, is that I am able to recognize when I'm dysregulated and I need to regulate, right? Even in micro moments of a short elevator ride. Like I've gotten very good at developing these practices in the micro moments to like, yeah. And it's a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a pretty hard head. And so even the experience of the auto accident, it was still several more years of coming to terms with what had happened to actually to get to the point where I could start to learn the lessons.
Yeah.
I became, more kind of went farther into the depths of the alcoholism, and really became about as disembodied as a person could become, because I was in constant pain because of the nerve injury to my arm and losing function in my arm, and the emotional upset of not being able to continue on in my career in the way that I had planned. And so it was that very dark moment that eventually led me to finding men's groups. And it was through getting sober and going to 12-step where I found my first men's group. And those are the people that taught me how to live, And I don't think any of them necessarily had a list of what it is to be a good man, but they showed me what it was through their actions, through showing up for me, through holding me through these incredibly difficult times, and helping me to rebuild my life kind of one brick at a time.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for naming 12-step too, as a tool, a program, a methodology, and also, like you said, that initiation into the power of group. I don't want to call it group therapy, but the group think and men's work. And I'm curious if we can start to, yes, the men's work, we talked about getting out of the head, dropping into the body, connecting to the heart. So when we've started to connect to the heart space, what helps us create, you talked about the roots at some point too, like the roots, and then even going like downward into the lower chakras, into the sacral and the root. Because in my work, as you know, I find when we're not aware of and willing to presence that lower chakra energy, learning how to understand it, tame it, hone it, cultivate it, right? That it's eros, it's our sacred life force energy. It creates, it's where our sensuality, sexuality, and creativity lives. And that's the other one that is feared, right? We talked about anger and rage and wrath, but also like the sexual energy, how to harness that and hone it and cultivate it and also celebrate it.
The way that I've learned it and the way that I teach it is very, very simple to begin with. And it's just feel your feet on the ground. So when I say grounding, yes, I'm referring to sort of energetic things, but it's just put your feet on the ground. Feel where your feet touch the floor beneath you. How well can you really feel your legs, your knees? How well can you feel your pelvis, the center column of your body? How well can you breathe into your belly and feel this inner cavity start to expand and fill with breath? And when people start to do this, when I started to do this, you just sort of start to feel it. And then that's trying to talk about that, I think separate is where the language gets very kind of all over the place. And so like when I'm teaching this and when I'm leading this and practicing this, like keeping it very, very literal, feet on the ground, feel your hips, feel your belly, feel your heart. And then the energetic experience, the more transcendental experience certainly comes through, but until you really have that connection to it, talking about it gets a little, I don't have the best language for it. So I like to just start with just keeping things very, very clean and simple.
Yeah.
What do I mean by getting into the body? I mean, feel your body.
Right.
And stay with
that. Even in that though, I noticed you skipped over cock. Right? So was that intentional to not have men feel into the lower dantian, like feel your cock, right? Like, are you intentionally skipping over that, or you're saying that naturally emerges and then that's a different thread that gets
I would probably get into the cock energy, depending on the person that I'm working with. That would probably be, maybe, a more advanced lesson. That's certainly something that comes out more in the men's work and in the embodiment work as opposed to the therapeutic work.
Right.
So, but it also depends on like when I feel like people are ready to go there. And so, it's probably not.
So I'm ready to go there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that.
I'm ready to go there right now in this podcast, right? As we start to weave through the themes of polarity and intimacy, it's like, we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that energy. And any man who is ignoring that energy is either living in the shadow states of it or completely disconnected from it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's part of it too. Yes, we have to get out of the head, drop into the body, we connect with the heart, open the heart. But what about all of this energy?
Working with that sacral energy, cock energy, sexual energy is something that is deeply personal to me and the men that I work with. It's not something I talk about publicly a lot. It's not something that I really have I want to make myself a voice of. It is something that I think each man comes to sort of in his own way.
Yeah.
And it's a very important part of the intimacy work and the men's work that I do. But it is also something that is deeply personal.
Yeah.
And so it's something I generally don't speak about sort of very broadly. It's very much like in each individual case with each individual man I'm working with, how he wants to relate to this. Because it is it's incredibly powerful. You know that. It's incredibly powerful.
Yes.
And it's something that, it's something I think it's important to show a lot of care for and not be reckless with. I think that's how we get into some of the more guttural aspects of it.
Yeah.
dick jokes or something. Yeah.
The dick jokes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for naming that and creating not necessarily a boundary. I'm not hearing a boundary around it because but also the awareness of like, it's a specialized field that I specialize in. And I'm hearing more from you, like you're really focused on the heart. And that's why our synergy and the work that we do and the workshop we're going to be doing tomorrow and how we're continuing to weave is important, right? To name that even though we both have studied somatics, we both work in polarity and intimacy, it shows up in different ways, and just naming that I think is powerful for folks listening to understand that when you are looking for certain guides, teachers, we can't just, we're using these words sometimes like really broad, lofty, like intimacy, like what is intimacy, right? And it can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
So in terms of starting to pull through, because I know after the men's work, like you have been working now more with intimacy and polarity and yeah, I would love to hear how that shows up for you in the teachings, in that heart-centered approach to the work.
Yeah. Everything I've learned since going to therapy school has been sort of a natural extension of like what concerns clients bring to me, as well as the things I'm working through, with my own life.
Yeah.
So at first it was, just learning how to watch one's thoughts, learning to work with trauma, learning to get out of the head and into the body, to continue to work through trauma, to feel into the heart. And now what I find that most men are coming to me is they're having a problem in their relationship. They've probably, they've figured things out in terms of, on the outside, it looks good. Career looks good. They look good. Life is going okay. But there's something missing in terms of their connection to other people.
Yes.
Connection to their partners, connection to their children. And so that is ultimately where we need to start talking about, like, what does it mean to be really, really intimate with someone? And it comes back to, you have to be intimate with yourself before you can begin to be intimate with someone else. You don't have to have it all figured out.
What do they name? I'm so curious because the men are coming to me with the same statement, but I bet they're telling you something very different than what they're telling me. So I'm so curious.
Sure. A lot of times it's just they know the connection isn't there, so there's more fighting, there's less sex. Sometimes there's, a financial rockiness, but it's usually just one of those things where it's just like, either she's about to leave or she's about to kick me out. And they sort of know it, and whether she said it explicitly or not, and they don't want to lose her. And so they're like, dude, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose my family. I don't want to lose my marriage. I don't want to lose my partner. And how do I do it?
Yeah.
Or I just lost her and I don't know why. Wow. I just blew this relationship up and I don't know why.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. It feels so real, vulnerable, authentic, obviously, but also like pervasive in the collective to understand. And it's so sweet to, as a woman who defines as heteronormative, to like hear that men have this sensation or this feeling of like, I don't want to lose her. Or if it's beyond that point and they lost her, this awareness of like, I need help because I loved someone and I lost them. And that's like really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
There are so many just like beautifully sensitive men that, gay and straight, that I have the pleasure to work with.
Yeah. And
it feels like such a gift to be able to see that, because I know they don't look like that to most of the people in their lives. But a number of people have trusted me enough to show that to me.
Yeah.
And, there's like, we had sort of referenced it before, like the longest journey for a man is from the head to his heart. And in some ways, like so many of them are already there.
Okay.
There's just something about like, how do they start to reveal it?
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Right. And you've named obviously understanding the self, becoming intimate with self first. Would you then also go into communication or like, because often I find that that's the thread, right? Of the breakdown is in, are folks looking for the tool of like conscious communication, or are they actually seeking, whether it's conscious or subconscious, more embodied modalities?
Yeah, I'd say that's usually the first question is the communication. Like, what can I say? What can I do that'll make it like how it was?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm happy to share that with people, but that's usually not quite enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of just being with someone else and talking through all the things that they're going through. So like, these are the fights that we're having. These are the things that my partner does that I don't get it. You know, these are the things that they want from me and I just don't get it. And I think a big thing that catches men off guard is like, so many of them are doing the things like, this worked like 5 years ago. Like, she used to love it when I did this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was my job. This was the money I made. This was the, you know, these were my hobbies. These were the things I was interested in. And they're sort of still that guy.
Yeah.
And life is demanding more of them. The relationship is demanding more of them. The changes in their partners, like they need new things. And so they're really caught off guard because they're like, dude, I thought I had it.
Yeah, yeah.
They kind of nailed it. And like now all of a sudden things are going straight.
Yeah.
So like understanding how relationships evolve in that way.
Well, and that's just the feminine. I'm like,
yes, absolutely.
if you're talking about someone that identifies as heteronormative, like we are different every day, every moment, all through all the cycles. And you mentioned earlier, the agility piece is key, but I mean, it'd be, like, let's start to go here because I'm starting to sense like in the polarity work and what we're going to be sharing and continuing to share here in Chicago in the Midwest. It's like, for me, when I'm hearing someone in the dialogue piece of like, oh, well, she does this and then I do this, or she said this and then I said this and this, it's dissonance. It's like, like right away, the priestess in me wants to like cut through that distortion because it's all like la, 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 la. And it's like just to get people into the embodiment of it and the practices, right?
Yeah.
So let's start to go there because we're about to teach this
absolutely
tomorrow.
Yeah. And there is something that something happens when we begin to practice. First, you know, an individual embodiment practice or just a meditation practice. And then as we evolve to practicing with others, whether with and without sexual energy, the new doors begin to open inside us. And so these things, these core skills of feel your feet, feel your balls, feel your hips, feel your belly, feel your heart, all of a sudden, like all of this new information comes in and it's very hard to put words on. But when you experience it, you know what it is and you feel it. And that is the level of communication that I think when men come to me and when people are having trouble in their relationships, that's what's really missing. Like there are nuts and bolts pieces. Like, okay, well, you need to meet once a week and talk about the budget and all these kinds of stuff.
But they need the container, right? Yeah. We need the actual container where we can slow down because for me, I noticed the value of the in-person work and the immersives because people are so in their 3D lives and the patterns and the pace of go, 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 that the slowing down and the intentionality behind it matters. And then, so we're curating the space, right?
Yep.
And then sharing the practices, which, you know, for me, it can be reduced simply to breath, sound, movement, and touch, right? And in doing so, we're getting out of the head, dropping into the body. And simply breathing into one's own body. And like you said, noticing, bringing awareness. And then when you're doing that with a partner, something happens, right?
Yeah. There is an energetic communication that occurs. And it's so helpful to be able to sort of just take speech off the table for a little while. Like, we don't need to talk. Like, everything that you can say, everything that you need to say can be said through your eyes. It can be said through your breath. It can be said through your body. But we need someone to remind us, like, maybe just don't talk for a little while, and lean into that and give a little guidance, move in this way, breathe in this way. And then people really start to find it. And it doesn't take very long.
Right.
None of this stuff is so complicated. It's sort of ethereal and ineffable, but it's not so complicated.
Right.
It's just a matter of slow down, feel your body, breathe, allow yourself to connect with someone.
Yeah.
And things start to happen.
Exactly. And it's energetic, right? And the nonverbal aspect is critical. It's not that words get in the way. And again, you could take a workshop on conscious communication and conflict resolution. And I'm sure I know those things are extremely helpful for relationships. But yeah, thank you for presencing that, because I do think that's a distinction. And it's even hard when I'm thinking of like how we market and promote, this polarity workshop, it's like to explain to people, we say it's embodied, but what that means also is it's like nonverbal, right? We're entering the energetics through the eye gazing, through the breathing, through that subtle energy body feeling, and something can shift or usually develops like deeper awareness that can help individuals on their individual journey, and it can help couples in their relationship. How does the polarity show up for you in the teachings, and how would you contextualize polarity?
Yeah. For me, the point like of doing the polarity work and the way that I teach the polarity work is to create the best balance of these energies within ourselves, because we're all masculine and feminine all the time. But to really understand how these energies work and what we mean by these concepts, it's very helpful at first to sort of to differentiate them and spread them apart a little bit. And there's this really wonderful thing that happens in relationship when the masculine and feminine, when one partner embodies one or more energy more strongly, there's that arc of electricity, that arc of electration that is very, very juicy. And practicing that in polarity practice, in partnered practice, really helps to illuminate that. But for most of life, we're living in some state of integration. Even in polarity practice, we can never really be fully masculine or fully feminine, but like 100%.
Right.
But being able to go to the limits of the extremes of these two energies, we see more about like what their strengths are and how they work together, which makes it easier for us to understand how to use them within ourselves.
Yeah, and one point I know we both wanted to touch upon is that the terms sound gendered, but they're non-gendered, right? When we're talking about the energetics, I like to say Shiva Shakti in the Sanskrit, or even Yang Yin in Taoism, or Alpha Omega. Like, we don't have to, we sometimes will hear the word masculine and then place it upon male-bodied individuals, or I'm, like we were saying, like I'm in my masculine when I'm in the doing and I'm in this penetrative life force. And it's like, yeah, we can do that. But what's your perspective on how we're kind of getting that wrong by you mentioned like this weaponization of the labels?
Yeah. So when first teaching and learning polarity, like there is a lot of gendered language that happens, and it's very useful in terms of understanding the energies, but when we start to apply it ourselves in our day-to-day lives, I think that's where people can easily go astray. And I think that is one of the ways that I've seen people, when they learn about polarity or learn about masculine and feminine energy without practicing it, when it's just academic, it's becomes something that they can weaponize against themselves or against their partners. I'm not being masculine enough.
Yeah.
You're being too masculine. You're not being feminine.
We hear it
These
a lot.
kinds of things. Yeah.
We hear it a lot in the field. I literally had a discovery call with a client who said it today.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm in my masculine all day long and I want to learn how to be in my feminine. And I know this is a generalized statement that I hear a lot from clients. And I'm feeling into it now and what you're saying. And when I hear you say weaponizing, it's like the story, right, that we've created of what that means. But then as a trained practitioner, I hear that as jargon. So to me, that indicates, okay, this person has done some work. Maybe they've read something or watched a video or something. But then I, as a trained practitioner, I know to go deeper into understanding where that's coming from, because that's just like, it's a statement. It doesn't really mean anything if, like you said, the person doesn't have an embodied reference point of the energetics of it.
Sure.
And this is the thing that I'm noticing is, I don't want to call it a problem, but it's like social media, we're overusing this term polarity, and people are taking it on to understand these masculine, feminine frequencies, and then they're not understanding the embodiment of it and the energetics of it. And so what would you say to that as far as how our approach to teaching this differentiates us from, let's say, what people are watching on the internet or YouTube videos?
Yeah. Well, the way that I was taught to understand polarity and masculine and feminine is that the masculine is consciousness and the feminine is energy. And it really is that simple. Everything that comes after that are different strategies or techniques to transmit feminine energy or to transmit masculine energy, but we start to confuse the strategies with the thing itself. So I have access to as much masculine and feminine energy as I will ever need. It's about, how do I shape my body? How do I breathe? How do I move in order to transmit the type of energy or the mixture of energy that I want to transmit in any one moment? And so kind of going back to what you said, the client call you had, like, I'm in my masculine a lot and I want to be more in my feminine. Like, I don't object to that. Like, I think that is like a healthy sort of way of looking at it. What happens too often is it becomes like, I'm too masculine, I'm not masculine enough. It becomes something about like our identity.
I see.
And it becomes something that we label against ourselves, as opposed to just like, I have access to all the masculine that is, all the consciousness that is. I have access to all of the energy and feminine that is.
Yeah.
But I define myself as a masculine person, as a man, because I feel more comfortable connecting to that masculine energy. Like, that just feels more like my calm state. Like, when I have time to myself, I love doing like almost nothing, as little as possible. Quiet, stillness. That's what really rejuvenates me. Doesn't mean I don't like doing lots of fun things and delicious food and having experiences and nature and all this sort of stuff. But like, what really, really feeds my soul is stillness and calm. And that is how I understand my core essence to be masculine. But I have access to just as much masculine or feminine energy as you or anyone else.
Right.
But it's about how we learn the techniques to skillfully transmit these to another person.
Right.
And so but when we skip that part, then it becomes like, well, to be a man, you have to do this. To be a woman is supposed to do this. And that's when we start really harming ourselves with that. And we get really, really locked in. And I think there was a point in time not that long ago when that made sense. Like, there were reasons that we had sort of these divisions, but I don't think it's relevant anymore.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how essential it was. I just know that it was. But I think we've moved beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for naming the definition. So masculine as consciousness, feminine as energy.
Yes.
So going back to consciousness and what that means, and, the embodiment of it. I mean, you mentioned stillness, presence, right? And this is something that is, again, one of these words. And we even said at the beginning, how can I be present in each and every moment, or cultivate more presence? How does that show up? What is the embodiment of consciousness as presence?
The most powerful tool I know for working with consciousness is the breath.
Yeah.
The way that we breathe into our body is the way that we bring consciousness into our body. That's how we bring consciousness into the room that we're in. And then we are present with what is and sense what is. And which is different than thinking about it or feeling it. Like thinking and feeling, these are wonderful things, and I do them a lot, but those are more energetic qualities.
Right.
The more pure, eternal masculine, the masculine in all things is consciousness, that which witnesses, that which is still and unchanging, that is holds you the same whether you're doing something I prefer or don't prefer.
This to give a personal share, because it's very present in me right now, is I was with my partner last night and my moon just arrived. I'm tender. I was kind of irritable in this sense of how I get in that state of menstruation, and I just wanted to lay down first in solitude in my own energetic field to create more consciousness, right? Because what's happening when you're in that feminine state of groundedness in the womb is it's not a grounded sensation of presence, it's a grounded sensation of energy, of activation, of discomfort or whatever, is happening in the womb. There's energy there.
Yeah.
And so all I wanted was to balance that out from within by calling in my own inner masculine as consciousness. And I can do that very well on my own. When another person is present, it becomes a lot harder. So my partner is thinking as a woman that, oh, you're feeling tender, you just need to be held. And he's holding me, but he's running his hands over my body. And I'm like, no, like no air touch or water touch, like hold me, but don't move you see where I'm going with this? It's like I needed presence, not energetic movement. And then I even felt within his own body, I was like, what? I remember I asked him, I said, what's alive in you? Because I could feel, I don't want to say dysregulations. It's not that he was dysregulated. It was that he wasn't present. He wasn't conscious. There was something in his energetic body that felt like he needed to move. He needed action. Like, how you can feel it in somebody's heart rate and in his breath, right? So I'm attuned to the subtle energy body, and I'm sensing that even though his mind is saying, no, I want to be laying with you right here, right now, I just want to be with you, his body is telling me otherwise. And then he admitted, oh, well, I had a coffee late in the day. And I said, yeah, I can tell. Like, you're not helping me right now, because although you think you're present in holding me, I can sense in your subtle energy body that you're not. And so I was kind of like, please leave. I mean, finally we got to a place where it was like, but do you know what I mean? This is like my explanation of this. I know it might sound long-winded, but it's really attuned. And sometimes all people, but this is a good example too of the masculine, feminine in the gender norm dynamic of like, as a woman, I just want presence from my man. I don't want him to run his hands on me and start to arouse me or play with my hair or whatever. I just want to feel his presence. But if I feel that his presence isn't conscious awareness, that he's in a state of either he's in his mind of thinking, I got to go take the garbage out or walk the dog or whatever, it's like, then go do that, please. Because I don't want you near me if your body wants to be in motion.
Yeah. And I know Dan, he's a wonderful man. And a wonderful practitioner. And like, I think it's such a gift that you are so attuned to these subtle energies and have such a skillful way of communicating that to him. Because I think, possibly to him, but I mean, to me and to probably most people, like the level of subtlety that you can feel life at, particularly when you're on your moon, is like a whole other language to us. Not that we aren't capable of it, but like most of us have not cultivated it.
Yeah.
And certainly to the extent that someone like you has.
Yeah.
So to be aware of things on that level, it takes practice. It takes a lot of work to be, and I'm sure part of him was being present. And part of him was probably like the strategy of like, she's in pain, I want to soothe her. And then part of my brain is also, because I'm multitasking, I'm also taking out the garbage or worrying about something. And as far as I know, like I'm being very present with you. This is like this little quiet voice in the back of my head. She probably doesn't notice, but you do.
But yeah, we do.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to really be that present, to be fully 100% present, there's this moment, there's breath, that's it, and stillness. It's a beautiful thing, and it takes some work to get to.
100%.
You know?
I mean, and this was a practice. Thank you for honoring me and also Dan in this. That's sweet. Because he was at the immersive with Alan and Courtney, and I remember the breathwork practice that we did in pairs, and how arduous that was for him. And it, when we talk about titrating the nervous system and expanding and stretching our capacity to hold, you know, I don't know if last night he was aware, and I don't think he named it, but we could ask him tonight, of how, because of that practice, he was able to also notice that he wasn't fully present, or he wasn't in that masculine consciousness, right? Because he noticed his breath, that he wasn't fully feeling it into his belly. And so when I kind of called him out on it, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Energetically, it was me calling him into deeper presence in a way that he was attuned to as well. And he's like, yeah, I feel that too. Like I'm working on, he was like actively working on it in his own like regulation way. And it is because of these practices, and it's because of doing them in transformational group fields where we really get to like learn and witness and embody and fine tune. And so, yeah, it was testament to the works. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's in the practices in the workshop that we're doing together, the workshop we met at, all of these types of practices, it's where we're able to see the two different kind of legs of healing come together. Because there is the deep inner work and the talking and the making meaning of things, you know, the healing work and the therapeutic work. But then there's the yogic, there's the embodied, there's the felt sense of things, and being able to bring those together in what is a very, you know, spirited and intense experience, a very high intensity experience, creates such a lasting impression, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sure, you know, we could tell anyone, I could have told Dan could have read somewhere like, okay, I need to breathe and be present with my body. And that would logically make sense. But when you have these kinds of things in a practice, in this very specific field where everything is held in a certain way, it creates an impression in our nervous system that we can continue to come back to. And that is how we start to really bring that out of the practice and into our lives.
Yeah.
So it's both. Like, we need the vocabulary, we need to do the inner work and the individual work and the slow things, and we also need these higher energy, sort of cathartic type experiences that happen in workshops.
Yeah.
I don't know that in my path, the healing has been the interplay of both of those things.
Beautiful.
And ultimately what steered my work to not only do the therapeutic, but to do more of the group work and the men's work and the embodiment and polarity work, because we need both.
Yeah.
We need all of it. You know, I don't think there's one, this is the one modality that will absolutely, this is the one good, right, true way. You know, it's like we need pieces of all of it. And we need to empower ourselves to go out and to find these experiences and to bring these things together.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being willing to bring them together and share the teachings and the embodiment of it. I'm excited to continue to journey with you and teach with you and share, because it's special work. And I feel like we could have gone on for longer to even attempt to put words to felt sense awareness and sensations in the body and these lived experiences. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing. And how, I know you live in Michigan, but how can folks that want to work with you find you, and what other offerings do you have? What are the ways that individuals can work with you deeper?
My website is my name, steveware.com. I'm just outside of Detroit. So I offer individual therapy for men. I specialize in EMDR, internal family systems, and somatic therapies. I do therapeutic intensives. So for some people who may be traveling from farther away, or people who want to do a very specific kind of work, they may not be able to attend therapy, weekly, 1 week after the other. They want to do a deeper dive, for a day or several days to do some deeper trauma work. We've found that these kinds of intensives can be, you can get a lot of work done in a small amount of time in terms of healing trauma. And I also do men's groups. I don't have anything up at the moment, but there will be more men's groups and more intensives like the one we're doing in the immediate future.
Great. All right. Thanks, Steve. So great to have you and excited for the
Thank you.
workshop. Yay.
You too.